2022. Our first appointment this evening is Nick Tripaldi of 62 Mill Road.
Yes, great.
You want to come up and...
Yeah. I'm Steve Pascoe, who's joining us. We're logging in right now. But essentially, yeah, we're just here to question the impact fee on the property. It was a $5,000 assessment that wasn't in the stipulations for the new building, or not the new building that was there, but the building that's being questioned here.
Okay, so do you want to wait on him, or?
Yeah, we'll wait on him. He said he was here, he just texted me.
Okay, well, we're waiting on him. We're going to go to the next.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So the folks on 13 Wadley Point Road will not be here this evening. They called to cancel due to an illness. If anyone's here for that. So are we doing that next week?
Yep,
Okay.
or next meeting, we will meet next week.
Yeah, so the 17th, we will not be having a meeting, so it will be the 24th at 7 p.m. I believe the issue is, well, you wanna?
What, 13 Wadley Point?
Yes,
Yeah.
what was the,
It's basically that they're occupying a seasonal house,
You're right.
13 Wadley Point. It's been in the records for 10, 15 years that it's seasonal, along with court cases and a letter from the temples themselves saying that if they were allowed to keep people in there for so many months that they wouldn't bring them back in, and they obviously have. So,
so that'll be on the 24th. Yep. And I believe they'll be the first ones on the agenda, right? Yep, so right at 7 p.m. Sorry about that.
Thank you for coming out, though.
You can stay if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Tripodi?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we're essentially just here today to question the $5,000 tax fee that's being assessed on the property. Doesn't seem as included in the stipulations that we recently got from the town for the project.
I'm sorry, what?
The $5,000 impact fee, we're here to question that because it wasn't included in the stipulations
What do you mean stipulations?
that we received from the.
When I got the approval from the ZBA, and then I got final approval from whatever other department, they said I had to do 2 or 3 things. Building permits, do you know what those would be?
Yeah, there's a file on it. Building
There's a
inspector.
complete file on this address. They said I had to do A, B, and C, or A and B. And I did that. Torturous procedure, but I did. And now, the building inspector's trying to slap an impact fee for the extra unit that's been there for 30 years, taxed for 30 years.
Just because it's an illegal apartment doesn't mean it's recognized as a dwelling.
Okay.
And you took the steps to bring it into compliance.
Yeah.
Upon bringing something into compliance and it's recognized as an actual occupied dwelling by the
Yeah.
town, there is impact fees associated with it.
And that just comes out of the air. You're not obligated to tell the person. It's going through
published
the
on the
process.
town website, it's readily available.
So is a lot of stuff. So you would add it on later. You made it a point to be very clear about the things that you wanted done. I've done this in other towns before. Hold on. I've done this in Danville. I've done this in Hampstead. The town is obligated. You give the stipulations. You tell the person that's doing it, the donkey on the other side of the table, what they have to do to get approval and to finalize the process. Don't tell me you don't, because other towns all do it. It's the same state. So why wouldn't you tell me at that time, do you want to recuse yourself? Because you had to last time, because you were worried about what I made. I'm just curious. Do you understand where I'm coming from? It was very clear, everything you said that I had to do.
I think you're basing your experiences on another town and projecting
It's
it upon
state of
us.
New Hampshire, and why would you not tell the homeowner what
Are
they
you
had to
citing
do?
a state of New Hampshire law that requires us to do that?
Okay, so why wouldn't you tell the homeowner, in this instance, what they had to do to complete the process?
Were you the homeowner or a developer?
The homeowner,
You were the homeowner.
I was the homeowner,
Okay.
yes.
So, as someone who's involved in real estate,
Yeah.
is it a surprise to you that when you made it a legal dwelling that you would have to pay impact fees?
I didn't know it was an illegal dwelling, because one of your building one of your building inspectors built it 30 years ago. You actually taxed it for 30 years.
As
You actually, hold on.
No,
I'm
as
still
a living
speaking.
area for the owner.
Excuse me?
As a living area for the owner was the tax value placed
That's
upon
what the
it.
tax value, and 10 years ago or 8 years ago, a septic permit was pulled. The town approved it, the health department approved it, they did, they signed it. And that said 3 units. At that time, nobody, remember, I'm not gonna go through the same argument, I already went through the whole process and did everything you wanted, but you just threw in at the last second this impact fee that you didn't say anything about before. The unit's been there, you've been taxing it, I didn't build it, I inherited it, assuming even my attorney saw it as 3 units, because it had a unit above the garage. Now it's different, when they're trying to get the final building permit.
So as far as a septic goes, someone could come in here with a 1-bedroom house and put in a septic for a 6-bedroom house.
They can, absolutely.
So that is not
But they
any
can't do-
indication, excuse me, that is not any indication of the town's approval of there being 6
You're
bedrooms
right,
in
no,
that
you're
house.
right, but if you take the time to go to the jacket and pull it, it says 3 units. I'm not trying to be a wise guy. Read your paperwork in your town. You can shake your head all you want.
I won't
Yeah.
vote on this, so
Yeah.
that would make you a little happier.
Yeah.
But you weren't happy with us when I was
Well,
voting
because
on
you
the
cared
zoning.
about what I sold the property for, and you had to recuse yourself.
Okay, we're not here to revisit old history.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that when you bring in any illegal apartment, illegal dwelling, and this was taxed, this was assessed as a living area for the owner. There was no bathroom up there, was there?
Sure there was. It was a full bathroom.
Well, that's
30
not the story you were telling here 2
That's
years
not
ago.
the story I was telling you. Listen, you want to pull the recordings? The building inspector built it. He lived there.
Yeah, my friend.
He rented it after. It was sold. Somebody rented it after that. Somebody's been renting this place for years. You people took the money every month, every year. You took the tax money and then you called it illegal. Come on now. Just see what's right and wrong here. You took the money, you called it a dwelling, then you say it's not, then you gave a permit for a septic that says 3 units.
Again, as we
It
just
didn't
clarified,
say
we are under no obligation to verify the number of bedrooms.
They owned it. It didn't say that. You gave a 3-bedroom, 3-unit septic design. You approved it. Then you snuck in at the end the fee. Come on. Being made here.
Excuse me,
The
sir.
case-
Listen,
the
if you
case-
cannot maintain your language,
Yeah.
you will be asked to leave.
No problem. I can maintain.
The fact of the matter is, as I just stated, whatever the septic tank was rated for, that has no bearing on
That
this.
wasn't my claim. My
You
claim
just
was-
said that.
You don't listen.
Yeah, you talk
You're
out of
not
both sides of
listening.
your mouth.
It
That's the
says
problem.
3 units on the permit. It says 3 units, not 2 units and the owner lives in the 3rd. Read the paperwork. So if the paperwork says what I'm telling, would you look at this differently?
You mean the paperwork for the septic system?
The septic system's one more.
Doesn't matter.
You took the
Doesn't
tax
matter
money.
what the septic
If
says.
it was illegal, why'd you take the tax money for 30 years? Why?
Are you stating,
Yeah.
since we're going on the record here,
Well, we've been on record.
okay, that was not ever assessed as in a separate dwelling, was it?
Was it not?
Was it assessed as a separate dwelling? Was it assessed as 3 separate dwellings?
Was it assessed as 3 units?
I think
Yeah.
the town has
Was
an
it
assessment.
taxed as 3 units?
Was it
Is that
assessed?
correct?
It's the same thing. Was
You
it
have the bill-
assessed
you
as
have the
3
card.
units?
I think the town has an assessment on file that does show it as 3 units. And there's, I'm not
But do
kidding.
you even have, do you have this information? Do you have the card?
I have a write-up from the building inspector in front of me. I don't have the card. in front
You
of me.
always have a write-up from the building inspector, with all due respect.
Yeah,
Look
why
at the
wouldn't I?
file, look at the jacket. I mean, he's always got something to say, but he's not here.
Yeah, right in the
But
file.
he said it's your obligation, he said it was on you guys. He had nothing to do with the assessment.
In the file, there is a list of stipulations for the project to be completed. And it's to pull building permits, it's to get a survey, and I believe that's it. I think there's, but there's
Yeah.
nothing that regards an
I
impact.
paid the $1,000, I never got the balance back.
And then
Now,
my
I
friend-
never let it go.
My friend actually rented that unit, lived in it as his primary residence. My colleague I used to work with.
Okay, just because someone was living there.
Well,
does
before
not make
Steve
legal.
owned it, so-
Again, you went to the planning
I'm
board
sorry,
to
I
bring
was-
it into legal compliance, yes?
Didn't mean to talk. I'm sorry.
They had to-
You can
they-
continue. It's sorry.
They had to go to the plan board because the zoning board gave them approval to have a legitimate third unit in that property, a legal one. But in order to have that third unit, they had to bring it up to safety, life safety codes, and had to go to the planning board to get all the permits. Would that have included impact fees? I would assume so.
Should have included impact fees.
Well,
It really should have.
if you're a
Should have
builder,
said, how hard would that have been?
Any new construction in the town of Kingston, so when did we adopt the impact fees?
I paid them here. I paid impact fees here.
Okay, so anytime you pull a permit,
But you pull it,
when you pull a permit,
Do you
to
kinda
do
see
what
this-
anything you're doing, there's impact
do
fees.
you see where I'm going though?
I see where you're
I
trying to
didn't,
go.
I'm not trying to do anything. I don't know anymore. This is on him right now. All I'm saying is what's right is right and what's wrong is just wrong. This unit's been there. You've accepted tax money for 30 years, right? You've accepted the tax money. You've seen it on the card. Jesus, there's a third unit there. Why didn't you go out there, and this is the same thing I said before. Why didn't you go out there and slap a fine and put a stop work or whatever on it and make them come into compliance 15, 20 years ago? Because you collected the money every year. That's what you guys are doing.
Let me take a step back, okay? I'm gonna give you my little story,
Mhm.
all right? I happen to have the first legal in-law apartment in Kingston.
Yeah.
The very first legal in-law apartment. Went to building, got all the permits, did everything I had to do, go to the ZBA, did all the stuff. Go for my first rough inspection. The building inspector looked at me and said, those windows on the second floor are illegal because I didn't have egress windows. They had to be 57 cube, 5.7 square feet. It had to be the windows, and my builder put it undersized. And I looked at my builder, and he said, well, I put them all the same size. And I was like, well, they had to be. So they had to come out. No one told me, or I didn't go to the town didn't tell me, hey, the code's the code, it has to be built to code. Your place wasn't a legal apartment, whether it was obviously used for whatever, by whoever, and for however long. But I can assure you, no one on this board was here at that time. We are trying to bring everything into compliance in the town of Kingston. We went to great lengths that we actually set up to hire a code enforcement officer to be able to help people to build legal and everything else. But it's not our job. The job, you should know the codes, they should be built to the codes, and the impact fees have been in place for 5 years.
So Kevin, that's an interesting story. I appreciate it. What's the building code have to do with my story?
Yours wasn't illegal, so you had to go to the
What's that got to do
ZBA.
with the price?
It wasn't legal. You went to the
It's a
ZBA.
totally
They
different
gave you
argument, though.
they gave
You're
you
repeating-
they gave you the
apples are
variance.
talking about oranges over here.
I know.
You're
I-
talking about an impact fee that you guys know that if you want, or if you're going to waive an impact fee, you have the ability.
Actually, we don't. It's the planning board has to waive an impact.
So whoever has the ability enforces and tells the client or the homeowner what they want. Done this so many times in Mass and New Hampshire. You tell the person, the homeowner, what you want, and all we do is go and do the job you tell us to do.
If you take a look
You
at,
didn't say anything about an impact fee at planning, and then
literally the only
building
record
inspector
I've seen,
asked for the impact fee. So where in my story is it even help for you to tell your story? I'm not trying to be rude to you, Kevin. All I'm saying is your story's talking about, and it's 5 foot 7 inch
Okay.
square feet. It's
Here.
not 5.7.
We'll stop with stories. Mr. Pasco, let me read to you the definition, Okay, section 405-3.e. New development for the purpose of impact fee assessment includes changes to an existing structure that would result in a net increase in the number of dwelling units. Okay, so do you not feel that the actions that you undertook with the planning board on the 21st of September of last year changed an existing structure that would result in a net increase in the number of dwelling units?
Absolutely not. Why don't you ask the police chief? He knows it's been a dwelling unit for 30 years too.
Yeah, but
If you're not
zero.
willing to recognize it, why don't you ask the police chief?
Based on that definition,
what he
there's
thinks
0%
about it,
chance
because
that's true.
it-
If I could speak for a minute here. So my friend who I worked with at the Hampshire Middle School lived there before Steve Pasco owned the place. He lived in the place we're questioning right now. There's a studio apartment with a bathroom and a kitchen. That's the place we're talking about. So
I'm well aware of the place we've talked about.
Okay, so
I'm well
I
aware
just-
of
based
Mr.
on your-
Pasco's history with this place, and the fact of the matter is that it was
That
a legal
definition-
apartment. It
That's
doesn't
not
matter who
legal,
did
Mr.
it.
Pasco.
Excuse me, I'm talking. It doesn't matter who did it, whether it was the building inspector from 20 years ago, it was not brought into compliance, and it was not a recognized dwelling by the town until the 21st of September, when you came to the planning board. It doesn't matter if
Give
the chief
back all
of
the
police
tax
knows
money
it,
and
the
then
fire
go
chief.
walk with more money.
What's that?
Because you took more than 5,000 in tax money over the last 30 years.
Listen, if you have an area above your garage that is finished, is that gonna be taxed as an unfinished room, or is it gonna be taxed as a finished room?
Just said, so it's a finished room, and it actually says on the card that it's a finished apartment.
Okay.
It's an apartment.
No, it says
So-
a living area for the owner.
And you asked me if it had a bathroom, and you said I lied, which I never said it didn't have a bathroom, because why would I claim it was a unit if it didn't have a bathroom?
it's a legitimate
Somebody
postal
speak
address.
up here, please.
It's a postal
That might know
address.
more than you know, or that you're willing to know, because you obviously have a hair across with me, and that's fine. I may seem
What, from when you were
abrasive.
stacking drywall
But I
against
did
the
everything-
opening so no one would know it was an
I did-
apartment up there and you
I
know,
did
playing these
everything,
games?
I bought it as a 3-unit, I did everything you asked me to, and now you're adding on another item.
No, we're not.
You are, because that was.
This is a result of bringing it into
It's not,
compliance.
it was like, we didn't add a unit, I didn't add a unit, I didn't do a new development, that doesn't even apply, just like his building inspection
So
thing.
there's a list. If you take, I wish we had the file here. It's downstairs, but so in the file it's the building permit that's copied, and then there's the list of stipulations, and on top of the file there's just a sticky note that says like 4998 impact. Just a sticky note on top of everything else that's official. It's a total afterthought, and just it seems completely unofficial, and I'm just really it's questionable, and that's just why we're here. So.
Well, another example you probably won't like, but seasonal houses that bring them into full-time residence, they have to pay the impact fee.
Of course, it's
Sure.
a
And it's
different thing.
already taxed as
No,
residents.
that's a good
It's taxed
example
as
of another-
residents,
yeah.
but then they,
Yeah.
you know, their taxes may not go
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But now it's full-time and they have
Right.
to pay an impact
And
fee.
that's a good example, but again, it doesn't really,
Yeah, that's a
It does,
apply to
because
this
this was
situation.
not a legitimate.
It's not that I don't like it, I'm not paying you.
You
Yeah, let me
weren't,
make that clear again.
it
Is there-
wasn't a legitimate apartment, or you wouldn't have had to have gone to ZBA and planning board if
With
it
the
had
charge
already
for
been
taxes on
settled.
it like it was, because in the tax card, it says that there's a bathroom up there, and it says there's a kitchen up there. Read the card.
It does.
Can anybody else weigh in that knows this place, can weigh in with a little more information to make it make sense that this should be a waiver, it shouldn't be an impact fee? It really should. This isn't the guy with the illegal apartment that he built, that he wants to get over on the town, that he hid it. This is like, I bought it like a 3-unit, I bought it as a 3-unit. On my mortgage, it said 3-family.
Likewise. In my
Legit. I didn't know that it wasn't legal, because I saw the above the garage unit. I didn't think anything of it. But then I did everything he asked for, but I didn't change the use. It was the same use. I didn't change it. I didn't make it legal, I didn't make it a seasonal, non-seasonal. It's not under bad compliance, because the building, and I had the fire through, I had the electrical, plumbing, everything's in check, everything's compliant.
Now you've had
I
it.
didn't really change anything to get it to be compliant.
Okay,
The only thing I did
so,
was increase the size of the unit.
let's go back
Want to
to,
make this chicken spreads.
Why don't we-
what did you go to the ZBA for? What was the purpose of your trip to the ZBA regarding this property?
You're not really hearing what
I'm asking you a question.
was to legitimize an apartment that was there.
Okay, so, can you say that again?
Do you need the 5,000 that much? I mean, this is not a good case of.
What do you think, it goes to me? No. It's the
This is-
rules. When you bring
It's the
something
rules,
into
but this is a
compliance,
waiver,
listen,
this isn't a
stop,
fee.
stop. You got a variance from the ZBA, right? What was the variance for? To legitimize the apartment.
To say on record what it was, but it was always been. That's exactly what they did.
Okay, so the argument then that you were paying taxes on it wasn't a good one, was it? Because you still had to go to the ZBA, you still had to go to the planning
I
board.
had to do what I had to do to get it
Okay,
right.
and this is one more thing you gotta do.
Next to it.
The net recognized dwelling capacity there is now 3 dwellings
So I
in
didn't
there.
recognize it on the planning board stipulation.
I mean, you're basically saying that
You're
we wasted
basically saying
everybody's
I'm
time to go to the
supposed to
ZBA and the planning board, and now you're just getting taken advantage of.
I guess
Because you're adding on something that wasn't on the stipulation.
so we did hash this out in the last planning board meeting. Is there anything else that you guys are gonna add after at this point, I guess, on the record?
Listen to those minutes. Exactly what he just said.
Can you tell us verbally?
So, okay, first and foremost, the impact fees are the purview of the planning board.
Okay.
That's, so, it really isn't up to us to waive them
We can't.
or change them. It's not in our purview.
I was
But,
asking if there'll be any more.
what's that?
Anything else we need to be aware of? Or this is it?
I don't know what you have planned.
Well, we're not changing anything at this time, so. But everything we have planned, we've already submitted. So,
I mean, I would make the trip to the building inspector to verify what the impact will fees for any further changes you're gonna
is
do,
that
but,
He
Robert
said
by any
refer to
chance?
you for
Yes.
this one.
Yeah, Robert sent me, he asked
He
me-
sent us to you, wasted both of our time then to come here
I can go back.
for nothing. That's Robert's doing. What Robert's doing is exactly the little stickies on his folder.
That's how I found the
Yeah.
sticky notes.
He
just
did
sticky
that
note
through the
on top.
whole 3 years that I know him. He does his little stickies.
Should we get
But
the
he doesn't
file?
come to the meetings.
By any chance?
what's that?
Could we get the building file by any chance?
I don't really see what the end result is gonna be. I mean, if you're here to get the impact fees waived, there's nothing we can do.
Then why did he send us here? To waste our time. It's a runaround game in this town. It really is, because I've been through this before. I was told.
I know, we missed you so much, you must have thought we wanted
Well, I'll
to see
never
you
do
again.
that because of people like you. Don't worry about that.
What's
I
that?
don't need to come back here for people like you that don't look to the facts and say, this guy's a legitimate case. You automatically assumed that I was here to save $5,000. It's not my money. I could give it what happens, but it's right and wrong. It's really right and wrong. Why did the building inspector railroad us and send us to talk to you, and this is what we get in return? Nothing but rebuttals and stories about different circumstances that don't have anything to do with this case. It's disappointing. You're here to represent the town.
So when you don't get your way, it's the wrong way.
It's not my way, it's right, and there's wrong. This was a railroad. Does anybody else wanna weigh in?
Yeah, I want to weigh in. I think
Yeah.
that we put this off until the 24th. We have a planning board meeting next Tuesday. I will talk to the planning board about this. I will read the file beforehand to make a decision. If it's a planning board decision, we can't make it anyway.
Well, we know the impact, the only one that can waive the impact fees is the planning board. That's not within our jurisdiction.
So why you
Good.
have it back?
I am questioning that in my mind because
Alright.
of the other property we had. It was left to the selectmen
No.
to waive it.
The seminary, we
No, I'm
went to,
talking about
well, we went to the lawyer on the
3
seminary,
Kingston Road.
and it has repeatedly been affirmed that
It's the planning
I
board.
believe we gave that person on New Boston Road the exact same information. It's not within our purview to waive any fees.
Okay.
I believe that was the outcome, is that we told him, it's gotta go to planning board.
Right.
Okay.
that's all we got.
You can come back, yeah.
No idea why the building inspector sent us here?
Yeah, he did ask us.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Nobody knows, right?
Well, he's not here to speak for himself. I can't read his mind.
He's never here. But just
How I understood it, you called to be on our agenda and he wrote us this letter.
No,
So I don't know any difference.
I believe
so
Susan.
I can't argue, so it's.
Well, I'm not.
we don't
I
need
can
to
tell you
argue.
exactly what happened, and I have a witness right here with me. So Susan
I
overheard the
was asked to
conversation.
put you on the agenda, I don't know what the idea was.
I believe when
I thought you asked to be on the agenda.
when I had called, you said you had overheard part of the conversation about trying to get on the agenda, because I'd spoke with the building inspector who had recommended that to be the
Yeah,
case.
but you were calling me to ask to be put on the agenda.
Exactly, yeah, because
I
the building
thought you
inspector
asked
told me.
to be on the agenda.
I did, because the building inspector told me that's what I needed to do. So there you go.
That part I didn't witness that myself.
Okay, well, thought you did, so. There you go, so.
Well, that's all we got, gentlemen.
Chair, Mr. Chair, did you say you're gonna talk to the planning board? You're the chair? So you're gonna talk to the planning board?
I'm the
You
planning
said
board-
you were-
I'm the planning board's rep, so I'll
Oh,
talk
you're
to
the
them.
rep, okay, so who's gonna talk to the planning board?
I will.
You will,
We have
okay,
a meeting next Tuesday.
okay.
Well, I don't know what you're gonna talk to them about, but you're not gonna exactly plead Mr. Pasco's case, are you?
It's not my case. I'm just here because I was the person. that did
Because
the
you
application.
could,
It's not my case.
gotcha.
Nick's the homeowner. He's requesting information why he's being charged something, and we can't finalize a process that I started, how many years? I think it might be at almost the 2-year mark, where you remember what happened to the guy before me when I was coming through here, that, you know, he just didn't, he had a contractor that held him up. I've worked on top of the building inspector trying to get everything done to be able to get this accomplished, and I had to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then we got to that point where plumbing signed off, electrical signed off, fire's happy. It was just the building permit, and then he put his little sticky on it with his impact fee that was never on any of the documents. You know, step back, forget the person you're looking at, and just look at the facts outside of that. Like, forget the temperament and all that, because I'm tired from this process. And just look at it. Like, you say you were the homeowner, and you had this situation, and you dealt with it exactly the way they told you to. They said, go to CPA, get the approval. I got the approval. Then I went to the planning. Then I got this, I had to pay the site guy, Charlie, great guy, to do the drawing and this and that. Then they wanted a full site plan, which it's already been there. And then they finally said, all right, fine, we'll take the site plan you have. Then they said record. Then they said not record. Then they said record. And then came back, and here we are. Now, because of the impact fee that was never discussed at any time, because it was an existing unit, I would have argued it when they said it, if I felt it wasn't right. But since they didn't say it, why would I think that they were gonna add an impact fee when they made it a point to tell me, you have to do this, this, and this to get this finalized? And now we're almost at the tail end of the 2-year. And then what if that expires? Then what? We gonna go through this nightmare again? How fair is that? That's all I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Steve. Ernie. Landry with the Heritage Commission regarding the Plains Cemetery.
It'll be a tough act to follow, or not. It's gonna be a tough act to follow. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Well, I wanted to inform you about the Plains Cemetery being listed on the National Register as news, but I think NPR has probably gotten all of you aware of that by this time. So, but anyway, on December 27th, the Plains Cemetery was put on the National Register.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your hard work for that.
That's an activity that actually supports the master plan, because one of the things that the master plan recommends that we try to list additional districts or facilities on the National Register of Historic Places. So we are working with the master plan anyway to try to move our programs forward with the Heritage Commission. A couple of things to think about. It was done at no cost to the town. We got a grant through the Certified Local Government Program with being on the National Register, we're hoping that it'll raise awareness of people in town about the cemetery, maybe make them a little more interested in the history of the town, because that's a good entree into the history of the town by going to the cemeteries. And so that was it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, great work on that, Ernie, and Heritage. That's a very important place in the town's history, and so that's good that it's being recognized as such.
Yeah, it's a great, it's just a great place. I don't know if any of you have been there, just to look at it, and see the monuments and the people who have been interred there, but it really is a great place. And it certainly is a living, well, it's not living because they're all dead, but I mean, it's a way of looking at the history of the town.
What is the oldest grave marker there?
Well, the cemetery was established in 1725. I think the one we can put our hands on is about 1729, maybe 1730, something like that. But if you look at the stones, a lot of them there are the older stones where early on people weren't carving stones; they were just putting a stone, field stone, actually, in some cases, right there to mark the spot where the person was buried.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to tell, but the trustees do have a map of the cemetery listing all of the people interred there when they were buried and so forth. We have a video that, and I might as well ask you that now. We have a video that we'd like to get online. Adam has told us that the town has I guess some kind of a YouTube site or something to put videos on. And we have a video that's a little over an hour long. We had Glenn Knobloch, who's a historian, come in, and his specialty is gravestones and cemeteries. And he did an hour presentation to about 75 people a couple of years ago on the cemetery. It's really enlightening, it's really interesting, so we wanted to get that online. So do we have your permission to work with Adam to get that on YouTube?
Sure, I think
I
that.
believe there's a form to fill out.
No, that's for the cable channel.
Oh, all right, that's right.
The other thing I was going to say, Ernie, is if you go to, there is website on the cemeteries page where people can actually look up any of the graves, and there's mapping software that has all of the plains, graves. Every cemetery in town except for Greenwood is represented on there if anyone's looking for a certain grave, and it'll actually show them right on the aerial map, where it is.
Yeah, that's a great asset. I think with the interesting genealogy that's going on now, people wanting to look at their ancestors, that's a great thing to have, is that website. So,
Yeah, I had a woman coming down from Maine the other day, and she was using that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to our first public comment section. None. Committee liaison reports.
We had the budget committee that met along with the board of selectmen for the first time, and we have town meeting coming this Saturday, or public hearing, I should say.
On the warrant articles.
Warrant articles. That's all I have.
Rich?
I met with Tammy, Fire Chief, Don Chief, Police Chief, and Rich St. Hilaire to review the sick day policy and look at maybe being able to bank some sick days for employees with long-term. We're still working on that. We got a proposal, a first round of proposal to present to the board. The solar committee is set to meet this week, and I asked Kevin to check with Block 5 on software. Adam had mentioned software called Otter, O-T-T-E-R, that is used as a backup at the school district, where the software is on a computer and you can hear the meeting and records it, even sensitive to voices of different people. So I spoke to Kevin the other day and asked him to look into that with Block 5 to see if that's the right place to go so that we can have recordings of both the solar and the landfill and the recycling meetings. So we weren't going to have it ready for this week, but by the same token, that's in the works as well, to follow up on that there. Then the other thing I wanted to say that I've had a couple inquiries about the price on the seminary property that was listed in last week's carriage town at $100,000, and that's not correct. It was the $200,000 that was originally negotiated, and there was a misprint. I don't know where it came from, but I did talk with Finance Chairman Jamie Fitzpatrick from the school board, and he said, no, that's not correct. It was the 200,000 figure that was originally stated. And that's it for me, for now.
All right. Old business. We had a request to unmerge lots for the current R39 lot 13.
You want a motion to that effect?
We've researched that, there's no reason not to, even though they have been advised that there's no benefit in it.
So, how many lots will this create?
Creates 4. And all but one are over 5 acres. One's a little small. But they can stay in continuous use because they're all continued.
They're contiguous and still be under the same ownership, so they can stay in current use. They
And
don't have frontage.
so it is not illegal to create a landlocked parcel?
No.
Okay.
The only thing that I'm gonna try to do is see if I can get a visit in the house to get a condition report on it for tax card.
There's a house there?
There's a house on the front lot, right up next to
No, I didn't know that.
Farm Road. It's been empty for years. Just want to get a status of that.
It's the old Charlie Phillips property.
Yeah. But as far as unmerging,
It's in tough shape,
I didn't actually,
real tough shape.
I'm happy to.
So,
If there's no, I mean, I don't know why they would want to have 4 separate parcels, and it doesn't change anything, it's still under current use, they haven't sold anything. So
Unless-
does
they
this,
seem to think that'll make it easier for them to sell off pieces of it. Because he said one neighbor's coming over on their property, so they want to sell them that parcel. It really won't make it any easier because
Yeah.
we still have to go through the same process
Yeah,
and
well.
sell time. But
In order to build on it, they have to make it class 5, right?
they have nothing that can be built on other than the front lot, because they're either wet or landlocked, unless they get a right of way. And most of it's wet.
Well, I would say if it's landlocked or wet, that's different, but we can't say if they have to bring it to a class 5 because we already approved it somewhere else.
no,
Or if
not-
they're-
no, that has nothing to do with that here.
Not this one.
Yeah, this one, it's different, Kevin. It's-
Class 5 chops off in the middle of their lot, so they have access on the class 5 road to get there. Without
Well, they
going-
did make one, the last one on the left, they made them before they built it.
Right.
They made them bring the road up to class 5 to the end of that one.
Well, I mean, I'll move that we grant them their request to unmerge the 4 lots.
I'll second it.
It doesn't change anything for anybody. If they ever did want to split one up to build, and someone wanted to build on it, then it opens up a whole nother can of worms, and it goes
But
down.
at least the lots are separated, it's one less.
Correct. If they think it's gonna be, it doesn't change anything for the town, and it makes them happy, that's okay.
It's their land, they can do as they please.
That's right. They wanna have 4 lots, they can have 4 lots.
Pretty much.
Pay their impact fees. Okay, motion and second, further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Beaver dams. We did not meet last week, and then when we were supposed to meet, there was a plowing event, so, him and I are gonna get out there this week. And I sent an email to the Pine Grove Cemetery. This issue was taken care of, I believe, a year and a half ago. I think probably what they were upset about was just, there was a service, someone had plowed snow, it's the end of the road, so we still have services in there when it snows. I mean, the cemetery's closed now, but at that time it was not. So, I haven't heard back. If I hear anything else, I will update the board. New business.
I got, received a call today from Patrick Aquilina from Unitil. They're interested in purchasing land, for solar, for the purposes of solar, in the area of their high tension lines that run through, all the way up through Kingston, all the way to Mill Road to Torromeo's. Want to know if the town had any land adjacent to or under the high tension lines. And I told him I'd bring it to the board's attention tonight. I did put him in touch with a gentleman from Brock's, that piece that's adjacent to our range on the south end of town.
I think anything we have there is in conservation, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, it is in conservation.
I don't know the stipulations on there, but I'm guessing it doesn't allow for that. It doesn't allow for much.
Right. I don't think the town owns any that I know of near the high tension lines anywhere else.
It's all Mill Road in that back area, right?
Yeah, they own a piece
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
If
I
they
guess
want to
if,
take a
while
look.
we're looking at prospective lots to sell for the upcoming year, just keep our eyes peeled if there's anything underneath the pile line. Any other new business? Okay, so everybody should have a copy of the warrant articles. Susan, you got these
I
new
updated
ones from the
them.
planning board?
The ones from the planning board, I'm still waiting for the final language, from Glenn. He's looking it up tomorrow morning. Anything that's on here in red is because I don't know for sure, or I didn't get it yet. I'm still waiting on a couple of, articles to come in tomorrow, petitions.
On Article 9, we're not looking to take it out of the ARP. I thought it was coming out of the conservation funds.
Oh, yeah, I was confused about that. I had it coming from the, ARPA grant money, but
No.
I was told today, no, land acquisition, so maybe I still got it wrong.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yep.
so I thought.
Still need to work on the rest of that.
Rick, is that correct? The focus is the land acquisition fund.
Yeah, the land acquisition fund, we originally put the article in, and we put the articles in each year. But focus is just a facilitator, we put the land people with the,
Doing business as?
yeah, we don't have anything to do with the money. Each time
Yeah,
money's
yeah, we-
taken out, yeah, we've asked, we wanted the people to have to go each time to take money out of that.
Right. So this American Rescue Plan one needs to change to the land acquisition fund, Susan.
Isn't that what,
It's number 9.
number 9, didn't I? You have the old one, I did
Mine
change
says land
it.
acquisition capital fund.
I changed it on the new one.
Okay,
I just learned that today, sorry.
let's take this one
That's why
out.
I'm
That's why I put the new one on your desk.
That's the first time you see me do that. Never mind. Thanks, Rick.
And Article 13 is the one that we were requiring for the
Tracy,
farm next door. This was the word
Okay, yeah.
Rich came up with today and the price he came up with.
I had a question on that too. Is that all coming from building maintenance?
Is that where we want it to come from? I mean, I guess the question is, do we want the voters to want to spend the money on that building for real, or just take it out of the building maintenance fund? It's good, there will be a tax impact if they don't take it out of the building maintenance fund.
I think in all the, so when we've done this for the museum,
Yeah?
it did come out of the building maintenance
Okay.
fund. It was just, because the precedent had been set, we just wanted to give the option for people
They want us to spend the money on it.
Yes.
Well-
Okay, that's cool.
I guess my next question would be, how much is in that fund? Because aren't we spending 80,000 to run the water line?
Yes, and when we discussed this originally, Rich was here and stated that we did have the money
Okay.
to take care of this, because there is another article on here, Article 10, for $100,000 to be placed in the previously established building maintenance capital reserve fund. That was raised from 80,000 to 100,000 this year because of
Yep.
both of these potential draws from there. And just to reflect increases in prices.
When I mean, we still gotta add this, our votes on in the budget committees, but when do we put the tax impact? Is that before printing?
It has to be before printing.
No,
Or it doesn't
oh,
get-
but when do we look at that, I guess, but whatever.
I don't know that we do.
I think the finalizing, so that was passed last year, where it was requested that we show the tax impact.
Year before, we had to show it last year.
Okay, correct. When these are submitted to DRA, that's when we include those at that time.
Because I can't, there was an issue with one that we put the tax impact, wasn't really the full story. I don't know, it was how the DRA wrote it versus how, when it comes out of a capital, if money's going into a capital reserve, you've gotta raise money and put it there. But when money's coming out, it's not a tax impact. I can't remember, there was an article we had an issue with, tax impact, it was written, it wasn't really accurate.
I think the verbiage that we used was not allowed and
For the
wasn't,
tax
excuse me, it wasn't that major, was it, that we had to change it last year?
I know there was some issue, I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember it either.
I knew it was something, I can't remember what it was, but I thought it was on how it got written, but anyways, okay.
So.
I would just say we should look at it before it goes to print, that's all.
Yeah, I think probably it would make sense if we're gonna present these articles on Saturday, we should at least have a draft number going in there, so that both the budget committee and the select board is.
Well, we have the deliberative session, which would be they really should be on the deliberative session, which is the end of January. Once we finish, next week we'll go through the few items that were unresolved on the budget, and then we'll review the warrant articles. And then I think from there, the tax impact should be available when we go to deliberative session.
So which day is deliberative session?
29th.
29th of January.
Just write that on my calendar. It's not on here.
So, once all these numbers are in place, I can, Cindy can find the tax impact. I'm sure she remembers what the glitch was from last year.
Yeah, I think probably for the 29th of January, that should be on there.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's when we give final approval for what goes forward to the ballot.
Yeah, I just wanna be able to look at it and have time to look at it, because I know there's an issue with something.
I don't remember it, so.
Rise to catch mistakes.
So what are we gonna do on that rooster thing that's not right?
yeah,
What's
just
in
out of
there?
curiosity, are they gonna be given a chance to rewrite that?
They
or-
can.
Yeah.
I don't, I thought there was a time that we said if you get all the signatures again for deliberative session, you can reword it, but somebody told me that was wrong.
Can we get that from?
The only way you could
Why,
get,
why do we do that? Why is zoning and planning so much earlier than for their deadline if there's not a chance to rewrite it?
They have to have a public hearing and all for the zoning, right?
The zoning one's okay.
Right.
The
It's-
rooster
This
one's,
one is not technically, well, it did come in time for the zoning, but I don't think it was part of what they presented in there.
what's a shame here is that why didn't they go to the planning board and ask the planning board to give them the wording that they need, or go to Glenn Greenwood to get the right
well,
wording?
what I was told was that the guy thought he had 2 or 3 more weeks and found out it was due the next day, so he rushed it.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, I think there's some confusion as far as the
But,
warrant article deadline and the planning zoning warrant article.
but at the same time, we need to make the public aware of this mistake and make sure they realize what it'll do with the yes vote. Because some people are just taking this to heart that it's the rooster, just the rooster, and it's not.
And we don't have any choice but to put it on the ballot, right?
Right. and this is a major change into that zone. If you have
Oh
a
my God.
residential zone, you can now put livestock on that, if this passes.
So if we could put the tax impact, can we put, if this article passes? Just thought I'd ask. I knew the answer, but I thought I'd ask anyways.
We could put that in the paper, but we can't put it on this.
Wow.
Didn't we at some point, I thought at some point we voted to table something in the deliberative session, and it kind of took it out, no?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Seems like I have a recollection that some time ago that we did, there was a motion to table, it passed, and action wasn't taken on an article.
I don't know that we can do that. I mean, if we got away with it once, maybe.
I don't think you can do it on a citizen petition.
Yeah, that's the thing, selectmen you can,
Selectmen you
citizens, the people that signed it put it forward as, they signed it as it was, so unless you had all those people at the town meeting, it's
Yeah.
next to impossible.
Yeah, I think you're exactly correct. I think that was the difference.
Municipal association, because coffee is an advice.
Can we just put an inquiry into DRA to just verify that? I don't wanna see this guy.
I mean, the other piece of it is if we put it in as a selectmen's article, but I don't really wanna do that. The only other
But
way, or
we
can the
can't
planning
take theirs
board?
out, so
It would be too
it'd be
confusing.
two, what if
Oh,
we
right,
get,
we can't have two
what
of
if we get a
them.
no on one and a yes on
I
one?
know, no.
So the question is whether they can revise it if everybody resigns.
Find out if they can revise it if everybody resigns.
Now, we've certainly found that there's a lot more latitude to a citizen's petition article,
That's true,
so,
But if we could get it done between now and the deliberative session, or if they could get it done, if we say, okay, if you rewrite it correctly,
Well, we probably have to put a little more time into that because we have to verify that, spot check the signatures and verify that people sign it.
never mind, it just seems like, oh my God. We're gonna be hearing those roosters for a long time.
Do you think that this could be, I mean, we considered it a zoning article because it was changing the zoning. If it's considered a petition, he's got till tomorrow to redo it anyway, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely a zoning article, it's
Yeah.
not, even though it's
That's why we gave
petitioned.
him a deadline, but now it's like,
It may be a petition, but it's still a zoning change.
but it didn't go to a public hearing, that's why it just seems,
It should have gone through, with the planning board, even if, as a petitioned.
No one even showed up at the planning board meeting to go when we talked about it in planning
About the
board.
other articles. It's, unfortunately, they're not aware of what they needed to do, or they didn't ask.
has anyone told him that?
No. I can call him.
I'll check into it first thing tomorrow, call him first thing tomorrow too.
I think they're owed at least an explanation as
Yeah.
to why.
I'll go by and see him.
Which one are you talking about?
Roosters.
Oh.
Maybe they knew what they were doing, maybe that's how they wanted it.
I don't think so. I don't think they were looking to have livestock in every yard in town.
Chicken in every pot.
Yeah, well, that may be. Well, the Santa Claus Fund kind of talks to that.
All right, so you'll hold it. That brings us to our second public comment section of the evening. Good, Ernie? Okay. Correspondence, applications, and purchase orders. Everybody's got the recycling totals in there for the year. Fascinating read. Very nice thank you card from Charlie Hannigan's family for the flowers.
Oh, nice. Oh, good.
You guys read that?
understand what's wrong with it because it adds on the property to,
The property it's being transferred from a person who doesn't own it, as far as our records show.
okay. It looks like it's
Went through the registry.
Ron sending it to,
Right, but he
Pellegrino.
doesn't, but Conan does not own it in our
Okay.
records, so we can't process that deed.
So this was sent to their attorney?
To Gaines' attorney, because they were aware that was out there, but had not been recorded into them.
Okay.
So we can't do anything until we hear back from the attorney.
She wrote back just briefly and said, as far as we're concerned, this is Inglewood property, and she's dealing with it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just an update from Chester, New Hampshire, that there was a grant applied for the hazardous waste day, household hazardous waste day. So they have not received, they don't know if they received the grant. So it's just breaking down our costs.
So we paid them, it may go down a little, is that what they're saying?
Have we paid them?
Yeah, recently, it was,
Did we already pay
We
it?
voted
Yeah.
to pay them.
It was like 9,000 or something.
Okay, so that, yeah, when was that dated? Those things that I read.
23 December.
Yeah.
oh, I thought I saw a check to them within the last month.
Yes.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Really.
So they may owe us money, or if they get that check or that grant,
Yeah, it's,
or they can
yeah.
add it on to next, I don't
We might get $1,000 back.
know. Okay,
That'll be
nice.
exciting. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
Move to accept as printed, both public and non-public?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain?
Abstention. So this is our special permit application for mosquito and black fly control to the New Hampshire Division of Pesticide Control. So it's done on behalf of
Bender?
our contractor.
Yeah.
So can I get a motion to authorize me to sign this?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, one. All right. So this is the application for Mark Vines excavation.
That was approved at the planning board to sign, based on us receiving that letter. That letter will go in as file,
Okay.
not to the state. I don't know if everybody's seen the letter, you may wanna just highlight the last
I'll
little
just
bit.
read it. To whom it may concern, Mark Vines and Son is requesting approval from the town of Kingston, New Hampshire to operate a vehicle inspection station at 1 Diamond Oaks Boulevard, Kingston, New Hampshire, 03848. The purpose of this private inspection station will be solely for inspection of our own company vehicles and the vehicles of our employees and their families. We do not intend to be open to the general public. So, planning board's good with it, it meets their site plan usage, so I'll entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign this.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, one. And there is a veteran's credit in here.
That needs to be signed by everybody, doesn't it?
Yes. Does anybody have anything non-public?
Yes.
Yeah, we got a few employees,
Yes, personnel.
personnel.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Motion to go non-public on the 91A Personnel?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote?
Alessio?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coombs?
Yes.
St. James?
Yes.
And Wilson?
Yes.
Glad you're here, Kevin,
Always
so my
last.
alphabet isn't all messed up.
At last all my life, till Tom Zumwalt was in my class.
Okay, that will conclude the public portion of this evening's meeting. Thank you very much for joining us. Just one note to the public, if we're supposed to get some cold temperatures tonight and tomorrow night, so if you are experiencing a cold weather emergency, please contact the Kingston Police Department. They will be available to assist should it be required. And that number is
642-5742.
642-5742, and that is open 24/7. That will forward to Rockingham Dispatch, and we'll get a hold of our guys. So, should you need it, please call. Thank you very much.
And good night.